Okay, good evening, everyone. I want to welcome you to today's Monday morning webinar, Monday evening webinar. Some of you are listening from all different parts of the world. I think one of my favorite parts of introducing this webinar is getting to know that everybody is coming in and live from different parts of the world. I actually had a conversation with my daughter, my teenage daughter, this morning about how important it is to be live and face-to-face with other people. And very often I find that my daughter's generation, she is 17, is glued to a phone or other mechanical device, kind of texting frantically. And while we all love our devices and we love to be connected to each other mechanically, it's somehow nicer to be able to see someone's face, to see their expressions, to interpret what it is that they're thinking. And I think the face is really the mirror to the soul, and we really can communicate so well with our faces and with our actions. So I'm so proud and happy to be able to see all of your faces every week, and I thank you all for getting on and listening and learning with me as we go through this journey together. So I'm going to share my screen with you. And as I mentioned earlier, today's conversation is going to be about managing diabetes. Actually, let me shrink this. Oops. Great. So let's talk about we're going to be talking about a little bit about managing diabetes. This is sort of a pretty photo, but doesn't necessarily say anything about diabetes. But essential oils can be great support for those of you who are suffering with diabetes or have pre-diabetes or are looking to help someone that you know who has this condition. The first thing I want to do is I want to talk a little bit about our team. We have a wonderful doTERRA team, and I want to talk a little bit about where these ideas come from. So the ideas contained in this presentation come from the book, Essential Oils, Healthcare for Today, A Beginner's Guide. And this guide talks about the top 50 health issues from A to Z. If you are a beginner, this is the guide for you. If you are not a beginner, but you're introducing people to essential oils for the first time, this may be something that you might want to consider. I've recently heard it called the LRP book. So that's the Loyalty Rewards Program book. And I think that's because on one side of every page for every issue, there are suggestions for 3 months of ordering. And that makes your ordering a little bit easier. It also helps if you're trying to help someone who has a condition. What's interesting about the book is it doesn't dive deeply into specific issues as many other books do, but it gives you a broader overview so that if you're not sure what a condition is, you can look back at what I'll call a bird's eye view, and then begin to look at what are some of the issues. Is this basically a virus, or is it another immune deficiency syndrome? You look at the body systems. It's going to help you to learn a lot about the body and how things work, and how many conditions, while they're not exactly the same, are actually very similar at their roots. So please consider taking a look if you haven't yet. And as I said, we're going to talk about some of the ideas from the book right here today. So thank you to our Blue Diamond team. I've adjusted this list many times. You saw me last week actually frantically moving names around. I think I have it right, at least for this week. If you see that your name is not in the right place, or you know someone on your team is not in the right place, please send me a quick message through the chat or through the WhatsApp group to make sure that I move it for next week. So I want to say thank you, first of all, to our Rising Blue Diamonds. For those of you who don't know me, I am Elena Jordan. I'm on this call with you every week. And I want to say thanks to Elizabeth Ho, Hong and Shu Lee, Sang Louis, Wenwei, and Lorinda Walker. Thanks also to our Rising Diamonds, Karen Johnson and Kat, Sri Malati and Denise, and Platinums, Rising Platinums, Joycelyn Schwa, Si-Han Lau, Bean Hu, Nicole Tay, Heather Weimer, and David Yap. Thank you for your hard work and effort, passing the word and really bringing hope to a lot of people who otherwise might not have had the hope that they have now. Also, thank you to our Rising Golds, Melanie, Sarita, Bryce, Kok Heng, Joyce, Sun Kun, Marie, Jeng Jeng, Agnes, Lydia, Wei, Lei Tang, Yok Mei, Anne, Sylvia, Laura, Kathleen, Laverne, Pui Hoon, Carmen, Shirley, Allen, Nicole, Joycelyn, Telia, Vinci, and Michelle Young. Thank you for your efforts, and thank you for everything that you do. I really appreciate it. This is a long list and always growing, and I'm happy to make it as long as it needs to be. This is a really wonderful team, and if you were invited to this call by someone who's on this list, please make sure that you have a conversation with them after this call. Oops. Okay, so first of all, what is diabetes? Diabetes is also called diabetes mellitus. And it's a group of diseases that result in too much sugar in the blood. So sugar is not supposed to be floating around in the blood. It's supposed to be taken up into the body system so that it can be used. And when it is floating around in the blood, it gives you a high blood glucose level. So if you were to take a blood test, the sugar would be sitting in the blood, which is not a good place for it to be. And it can actually cause stress on many of the organs. But there are four common types of diabetes. First is type 2 diabetes, which is the modern plague, if you will. It's a chronic condition that affects the way the body processes blood sugar. Type 1 diabetes is a chronic condition in which the pancreas produces little or no insulin. So that's really the chief difference between those two types of diabetes, if you weren't sure. Type 1 is pancreas produces little or no insulin. Type 2, that the body produces enough insulin, but the body cannot pick up the sugar from the blood, becomes insulin resistant. And then pre-diabetes, a common condition in which blood sugar is high, but not high enough to be categorized as type 2 diabetes. And then gestational diabetes. I know many of you work with moms that are either pregnant or thinking of becoming pregnant. There's a form of high blood sugar affecting pregnant women, which usually disappears after pregnancy, but something you need to be mindful of because it can affect the developing fetus. You also want to keep in mind that women who have gestational diabetes in their first pregnancy will often repeat that in second or later pregnancy. So just something to be mindful of. And it can also affect birth weight of babies. Okay, so let's take a look at this for half a second, because I have to say, before I knew as much as I do about diabetes, this was not completely clear to me. So on the left-hand side, you can see a gentleman who's testing his blood sugar levels. And then we look at the blood vessel on the left, and you can see the glucose and the insulin kind of mixing there together. But the glucose is not going out into the cells. It's kind of stuck there in the blood, which is not what we want. It's kind of flowing there together. The insulin is there, and it's just not working. In normal, with no resistance, the insulin is released, and it brings the glucose out into the cells. So the insulin is moving the glucose into the cells. That is the way a normal functioning body should work. But with type 2 diabetes, this is what happens. So this is not healthy for us, obviously. Okay, so millions of Americans today are taking dietary supplements, practicing and integrating other natural therapies into their lives. These are all preventive measures that will keep them out of the doctor's office and drive down the costs of treating serious problems like heart disease and diabetes. I may have diabetes, but diabetes does not have me. And I wanted to kind of start with this because I want you to understand what diabetes is, but to also understand that it's not a life sentence or something that cannot be drastically improved. And I've seen that in my own family, and I'll talk to you about that in a minute. But that idea that we can actually begin to help ourselves to become healthier. And certainly if you're a person who has diabetes in your family, but has not exhibited the symptoms yet yourself, you want to make sure that you are taking seriously your preventive measures that will keep you out of the doctor's offices. So as for diabetes, over 20.8 million people in the United States suffer from diabetes, or roughly 7% of the population. Now, these are people that are actually diagnosed with diabetes. There's a belief in certain circles that that number may actually be double, because there are people, many people with prediabetes that are just walking around undiagnosed. And there's also, of course, people that have been told by their doctors that they are suffering from or about to suffer from diabetes and are not receiving treatment, which is even more serious. On the other side of the world, interestingly, in India, or perhaps closer to your side of the world than to mine, where there are over 1 billion people, almost no one suffers from type 2 diabetes. Now, is this a result of genetics, diet, lifestyle? We're not exactly sure, but we do find in cultures where there's very low levels of diabetes, if dietary restriction or dietary if people's diets begin to change and are turned more towards a Western diet, which is a little bit more fatty or greasy or more sweets, then we begin, and less exercise, we begin to see diabetes levels begin to rise. So I want you, when you're talking about diabetes, to focus on the C oils. And we're going to talk about them in turn from left to right: coriander, cinnamon bark, clove, cilantro, and cassia. And I actually have a surprise oil for you at the end, which I'm going to talk about, another one of the C oils. But these are the 5 oils that you want to keep in mind when you're talking about diabetes and trying to keep it under control. Okay, so number 1, let's talk about cinnamon bark. Data from the Agricultural Research Unit in Maryland was first published in the New Scientist in August 2000. Researchers found that cinnamon rekindled the ability of fat cells in diabetics to respond to insulin and greatly increased glucose removal. It's believed that a substance in cinnamon called MHCP is the main reason for its beneficial results. If you are a person who's interested in taking cinnamon, you can take it in a couple of different ways. Cinnamon actually has a lovely sweet flavor, and I find that in the morning I take a small glass of water, about 3 ounces, which is about, oh my gosh, I don't know how many milliliters. You know me with the metric system, I'm terrible at this. A small glass of water, almost like a shot glass. I put 1 or 2 drops of cinnamon right on top, and then I give it a little bit of a stir, and then I take it down quickly. I love cinnamon because it actually has that nice refreshing flavor in the morning, and I can drink it instead of coffee. I love my coffee, and I tend to take it, I do drink coffee every single day, but I find that if I drink cinnamon bark in a little bit of water, I drink a little bit less coffee, and that's always my goal. 1 cup should be just about enough for me, but honestly, some days I want to drink more, and the cinnamon bark helps me to drink a little bit less. So cinnamon bark, also blended with a drop or 2 of lemon. If you're in the habit of drinking lemon oil first thing in the morning, it's a wonderful way for you to start your morning. The other thing that I will remind you, though, about cinnamon bark is it is a little spicy. So if you've had some of those children's candies called Cinnamon Red Hots, it can give your lips sort of a tingly feeling, nothing drastic, but that's why you want to make sure you give it a little stir before you swig it back. And I would keep it to 1 to 4 drops, certainly in a glass of water, starting with 1 and then working your way up. I should also say about cinnamon bark that, of course, if you don't like the taste or it's unpleasant for you to drink it in water, please feel free to put it into a capsule. And all of the oils I'm going to talk about today can easily be added to a capsule. So let's talk a little bit about coriander, our second C. Coriander has a 3-fold effect on those who suffer from type 2 diabetes, or those who have insulin but can't metabolize the blood sugar. First, it has an anti-hyperglycemic effect, wherein the blood sugar levels are lowered. Second, it has an insulin-releasing effect, wherein the pancreas is encouraged to release insulin to help metabolize the blood sugar. And thirdly, it also exhibits insulin-like activity in that it helps with metabolizing blood sugar in order to return it into usable energy for the body. I love coriander. It's one of those oils that for me just smells fresh and clean. Many people use it in foods. It's terrific in cooking. You can feel free to add it into things like salad dressings to get the benefits. But if you really are a person who is suffering from type 2 diabetes, you may want to take it in a capsule. Again, you can drink it in water, but this is one of those oils that I would probably add into a capsule. So if you were putting together a capsule, you could put a drop of each one of the oils I'm talking about in a capsule, starting there, and working your way up to 1 to 4 drops each. Oops. Okay, let's talk a little bit about clove. Now, everybody knows about clove, and I know we've talked about clove on this call many, many times, and clove is good for so many different things, including dental health and mouth health. It's a great antiviral and antifungal. There's so many uses for clove. And clove is also good for our blood sugar levels. So in laboratory studies done by Dr. Richard Anderson from the Beltsville Human Nutrition Research Center at the U.S. Department of Agriculture indicated that compounds found in cloves, like those found in cinnamon, appear to increase insulin efficiency. So they help the insulin take the blood out of the sugar. Consumption of as little as 1 gram of cloves, and 1 gram of cloves would be approximately 4 to 5 drops, by people with type 2 diabetes leads to improvements in blood sugar, insulin, cholesterol, and triglycerides. So you're getting really a 1-2 punch because you're also improving your cholesterol. And, Anderson commented, the major contribution of this study is that it demonstrated that consumption of cloves may be important in the alleviation of diabetes and cardiovascular diseases in humans. So add cloves into your regimen if you haven't already. I love clove oil. I'm not sure if I love the taste, but that's my personal preference. I know some of you love it. I like the cinnamon bark much more, but I do know that it's good for me, and I try to take products that have clove in it. Now, many of our supplements, as you know, have clove in it. Consider taking one of those if you don't feel comfortable taking drops of clove oil either directly in your mouth or under your tongue or in your water. You can research some of the products. Some of our more popular ones, of course, would be the On Guard capsules, but clove oil is contained in several different supplements from doTERRA. Okay, let's talk about cilantro. Cilantro's leaves and stems help to lower blood sugar levels in animal studies. The most significant study published in the Journal of Food Sciences showed that when diabetes has been diagnosed, cilantro helps support healthy liver function and helps to balance blood sugar. I have to say, cilantro is hands down my favorite herb, and I use it every single day. Bunches and bunches of it. I have to buy it in the supermarket because here it doesn't grow in the wintertime, but I love it. So for me, this is an easy herb to take. My son actually loves it also. And sometimes after I've taken cilantro in the morning, he'll say to me, Mom, you smell delicious, as if it was some sort of a perfume. I take cilantro a couple of different ways, usually in a capsule. I do add it into salad dressing because, as I mentioned before, I love the taste. But I currently am taking salad dressing. Listen to me. I'm currently taking cilantro because, as I mentioned a couple of weeks ago, I had a bump on the head and I needed a CAT scan, which is not my favorite thing to do. I try to avoid radiation whenever I can. But this was unavoidable, and I did receive a CAT scan. Cilantro is also a known way to clear radiation from the body. So if you know someone who has been exposed to excessive levels or even levels that they're not comfortable of radiation because of illnesses, or maybe even someone who flies a lot internationally. They say that one flight to Europe, from Europe to the United States, is equal to about one chest x-ray. So if you know someone who is a frequent flyer, you may want to help them to include cilantro into their daily regimen. So I'm taking 4 drops of cilantro in a capsule every day, and I'll probably keep taking that for the next 3 or 4 months. And it's interesting, when I first started taking it, I actually felt a metallic taste in my mouth, which is actually a good thing. That means the body's beginning to draw the metals out of the heavy metals out of the body. When you take these oils, folks, you want to make sure that you're drinking lots of water. The only way you're going to get the toxins out of your body is if you continue to drink large quantities of water. And when I'm talking about large, I'm talking almost half your body weight in ounces every day. So if you are a 150-pound man, you would be drinking 75 ounces in water. And I know I'm not talking in metric, which is not a good thing. I'm going to have to look this up at the end of the call. So some of you who are listening, if you could quickly check that for me, what 75 ounces would be in milliliters. Thank you so much. Okay, so next slide. Let's talk a little bit about cassia. So cassia and cinnamon bark are not exactly the same plant. They are two different plants. They are in the same family, but they are not the same plant. But cassia oil has also been getting a lot of attention for its ability to naturally treat diabetes by lowering blood sugar levels. A 2003 study was designed to study the effect of cassia flower extract on hepatic glycolytic and glucogenic enzymes in diabetic rats. After 30 days of treatment, blood glucose, glycosylated hemoglobin, and glycogenic enzymes decreased significantly, while plasma, insulin, hemoglobin, and hexokinase activity increased, which is a positive thing. The study concluded that cassia flower extracts were just as effective at glibenclamide, a prescription drug used to treat type 2 diabetes. Another 2005 study published in the Journal of Medicinal Food involved 15 diabetic men and women who were given either a cassia fiber supplement or placebo twice daily for 2 months. The results found that levels of serum triglycerides and low-density lipoprotein cholesterol tended to decrease more in the cassia supplemented group. So cassia is another essential oil that you would like or are advised to consider if diabetes is one of the problems that you are trying to combat. So let me talk a little bit about something that's near and dear to my heart, which is my own husband. My husband and I are married 26 years. And my husband, he's in his early 50s. And when we were married, I don't know, about almost 10 years, my husband was 38. He was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. It is a disease that runs in his family. His dad had type 2 diabetes, and one of his brothers has it also. It's unfortunate that he contacted it as early as he did. Many diabetes sufferers don't begin to see symptoms of diabetes until they're in their 50s. The effects of diabetes can be corrosive on different organs of the body, so it's not something that you really want to play around with. As many of you know, my husband also had other conditions that led to general heart disease last year. He had a quadruple bypass. So this is something that we've been managing for him for many years, almost 15 years now. And I think if I think about the trajectory, I want to actually talk about two different things. Number one is stress on the body, and the second is self-care. So when you talk about stress, we talk about not taking care of ourselves because we're in a situation where we are continually put in an area of life where we don't have time for ourselves. We don't take time to breathe or to exercise or to meditate. And it becomes a corrosive, vicious cycle, which deteriorates the body hugely. My husband travels all the time and works for in a difficult industry, in the finance industry. And it's interesting how over the last 5 years or so, we've actually seen some major changes. He's actually able to work remotely now, so he works more often from home. And it's changed the way he interacts with us, with his family, and also that his blood glucose levels are really now under control. Unfortunately, we had that big scare last year, and so that was a course correction, if you will, but also that idea of relaxation and de-stressing. So as a result of that, my husband is really exercising every day and has lost about, I want to say, between 25 and 30 pounds, which makes a huge difference on how the body is able to function. Having said that, it is still a continuing condition that he needs to be mindful of, and I do too. So I watch what we eat. I try to make sure that we don't have things that are tempting in our house or extra sweets. We certainly watch things like cholesterol levels and other fancier items that we really can't include in our diet. But it's a good message also for my children, because I think as they're growing up, they're seeing that their dad really has been dealing with something in a fairly efficient way. I mean, despite having been diagnosed with this at 38, he's been diligent about making sure that his blood sugar levels are under control, getting to the doctor regularly, taking his medicine, incorporating some essential oils. And I can't tell you he incorporates all the ones that are in this presentation, because I would be lying to you. But that idea that he is mindful of what this condition can do to him and also to his whole family. So it's important, I think, as each and every one of you either deals with people that are struggling with this condition, or as you struggle with it yourself, you want to keep in mind that it is, or it can be, a lifelong issue that you want to be mindful of. And each day is a new day, but not to lose hope. We always want to make sure that we have hope and that we are not afraid, because none of these things should be making us afraid. We were created with an amazing body that can put us really exactly where we need to be. And our body has self-healing mechanisms that are really astounding to me. As long as I've worked in natural health, I've seen so many turnarounds, and I know all of you have seen them also. So keep that in mind as we go into the last part of this presentation, which is actually sort of a personal testimony about one single oil that has worked for our family. So the oil is actually cedar wood. And while it's not listed on any of the lists, and if you type it in to Google searches, you don't usually find cedarwood listed as an oil for diabetes. But at least in our family, what we found is by applying cedarwood to the soles of the feet, my husband's blood sugar levels have steadied. And we kind of fell onto this suggestion by chance. My husband had been a very restless sleeper for a long time. He had been going through some stressful period at work. And I said, why don't you try some cedarwood on your feet? I applied the cedarwood to his feet, and religiously for several weeks, he started to settle down. He was one of these restless sleepers that talked and moved his legs and flailed his arms and had whole conversations in 2 different languages while we were trying to get to sleep. And the cedarwood really helped to settle his mind. What's interesting, though, was, as life has it, after a few weeks, I either stopped putting it on or got lazy and didn't, or he forgot, and I forgot to just stop putting cedarwood on his feet. And all of a sudden, my husband said, well, why aren't you putting that sugar oil on my feet anymore? And I said, what sugar oil? I couldn't imagine what he was talking about. And he said, that one that you put on my feet before bed. And as it happens, he was beginning to see his blood sugar levels stabilize as a result of putting cedarwood on his feet. Now, cedarwood has not been shown to help with stabilizing insulin or blood sugar levels, but why did it help him? It allowed him to sleep more soundly at night, and that allowed all of his organs to rest. So including his pancreas and all of his blood vessels, everything became more calm at night and therefore worked more efficiently. So begin to roll back the stone, if you will. Begin to think about, what can I do that will help me? And sleep really is one of those fundamentals. If you're suffering some sort of a chronic condition, begin to go back to the fundamentals that we talked about in the first place, that Dr. Andrew Weil talked about. Things like sleep, good nutrition, walking or exercising, yoga, meditation, all of the things that are foundations for good health. So in terms of my last thoughts about diabetes, other than the previously mentioned oils, you should always be prepared to explore new alternatives. Understanding the mechanism of your body and consider what you need. At times, in chronic conditions such as diabetes, the body seems to develop immunity of a particular essential oil. In other words, if one oil loses its effectiveness over the period of time, consider switching to some other essential oil on a temporary basis. That can often be a wake-up call to the body to start functioning efficiently again. Almost all of the essential oils support vision and improve liver function. As a dietary supplement, essential oils can reduce the free radical activity in the body. If you are searching for an anti-aging agent, essential oils can surely do the job. And as we know, diabetes can be an aging agent. So we want to look for anything that can be an anti-aging agent. Essential oils, when consumed after a meal, can prove to be miraculous for your digestive system. Just add a few drops of any of the essential oils mentioned above in a cup of boiled water and drink slowly. Please remember that the pancreas is connected with the spleen and the stomach. So when you consume anything that supports the functioning of the stomach, then in turn supports the pancreas. So I'm going to talk for 2 minutes about our SlimSassy products. We talked a little bit about Clove before, and of course, SlimSassy Metabolic Blend contains Clove. It also contains grapefruit, which is a terrific anti-detoxifier. Combined with the doTERRA Lifelong Vitality Pack, the Alpha CRS, the Omegas, and the Microplex VMZ, terrific 1, 2, 3 punch to help your body to function properly. I love the vitamin and mineral complex, Microplex MVP, and the antioxidant Alpha CRS, or in my particular case, I happen to love Mitotamax. Trim shakes are a terrific way for you to control cravings, act as a meal substitute. So if you're looking to lose a little bit of weight, you can drink a shake during the day containing acentratrim and solathin to really control cravings and acts as a meal substitute. So if I were going to add anything to this mix, I would certainly start with the Lifelong Vitality Pack, as I very frequently mention on this call. I would add in the SlimSassy Metabolic Blend soft gels and the oil, which I would either apply to my feet or drink in water daily. And finally, I would use the trim shake as a meal substitute. Temporarily, you know, there's a third flavor. I don't think it's sold out yet, which is the orange vanilla. And there is SlimSassy gum if you're a gum chewer. I happen not to be a gum chewer, but if you are, that's a great way also to resist tempting foods and reduce cravings. Okay, so that is my presentation for today. I'm actually going to stop the share, and then I want to open it up to answer any questions. And I see a few people try to contact me on the chat. Oh, thank you so much. You're so sweet. Okay, so several nice people told me that 3 ounces is about 89 or 90 milliliters. Thank you so much. So 90 milliliters of water, as you know, is not a ton. And then does it have any dairy trace inside SlimSassy shakes? Oh, that's a great question. The original SlimSassy shakes have whey protein but no dairy. But if you cannot take whey protein, then there is a vegan shake. Terrific question. And is the gum available in Singapore? I don't believe it is. You would have to order it from NFR. So let's have a show of hands here just quickly. How many of you are either personally know somebody who has diabetes, have diabetes yourself, or are helping someone in your team who has diabetes? Give me a raise of hands here, and you can do electronic chat or just a quick up hand. A lot of you. Okay, yeah, that's what I would expect. Diabetes is one of those conditions that affects everyone. And so many of us have family members or friends that are suffering from diabetes and really are at their wits' end. If you are a person who incorporates a lot of herbs and spices into your cooking, consider incorporating coriander and cilantro essential oils. They're going to be a little bit more concentrated, and you'll be able to mix them in, especially with cold foods. They're a wonderful way if you're accustomed to making any sort of cold noodles or vegetable dishes or salads. You can mix them in and not deteriorate the quality of the oils at all. And that's an easy way for you to add oils into your family's diet or into the diet of someone that you love. Okay, second question. Someone here says Indian cooking uses a lot of these ingredients. Possible reason why diabetes is so low in India. Yes, I would absolutely agree. Thank you, Marina. That's a great comment. Now, I think, and if I'm not mistaken, that there are a lot of you that use herbs and spices in your cooking. And I know whenever I've traveled to Asia, I see a lot of people a lot of the cooking is very well seasoned. Now, how many of you are using the raw spices? So let's talk a little bit about coriander seed or coriander leaf in your cooking, or cilantro leaf in your cooking already. Give me a hand. Just give me a hands up. Those of you who are cooks, because I know some of you don't cook, tell the truth. Because you have such delicious food where you live, you can get great food wherever you are. Okay, a few of you. Great. Okay. So consider adding into your food. How many of you are taking some of these oils already, either in pre-made supplements or capsules, maybe for another condition? Yeah. Okay. Good. All right. So here's another question. Gestational diabetes. I didn't specifically mention it. Whenever we're talking about the pregnant woman, we want to be mindful that we start slowly and we start with small quantities. Certainly, pregnant women very frequently have just different gestational needs. They may also be sensitive to certain smells. I think I've mentioned to you before, one of the things that I couldn't smell when I was pregnant was olive oil. I use olive oil every day, but when I was pregnant, I couldn't stand the smell. So be mindful of the fact that your friend or your loved one who's pregnant may not like the smell of some of the oils. Consider putting the essential oils, small quantities. Start with 1 drop but I would say certainly the cilantro and the coriander would be safe. And then you want to look. Clove, I know sometimes they don't, some pregnant women will not take clove, but consider the cilantro and the coriander if you are for pregnancy. Slim and Sassy gum may be sold out temporarily if you don't see it in NFR. Other than consuming, can the oils be applied on the soles of feet? As my elder father, absolutely. As the story that I told about the cedar wood, I only applied the cedar wood to my husband's feet, and it was very effective. Many of you also know that diabetics can sometimes develop something that's called diabetic neuropathy, which is damage to the nerve endings, which usually starts in the extremities. They also sometimes have difficulty with their skin. So you want to make sure when you're applying essential oils to the skin of a diabetic that you're adding something moisturizing with it. It can be very drying to their skin, but yes, it can be very effective. How often do you take the oils? Been using coriander and cinnamon bark for my dad, but thinking about rotating oils every 3 months. Should we rotate? Yes, that was my final point. You should be rotating. And you can even change just one of the oils and then go back to the original blend. You want to see if you're having any kind of if you're having a positive reaction. Now, some people I know have had very positive reactions right away. I have a friend who was taking essential oils for high cholesterol, and within a day or so was able to lower her cholesterol right away. She was taking lemongrass, and she's a very tiny lady, very small of stature. So she was able to start with really just 1 drop and immediately see a result. If you are a larger person or you're working with a larger person, you want to make sure that you're having them take an appropriate dose. But in any event, you want to make sure that you're working within that 1 to 4 drop range and repeating as necessary. So more is not more. I don't want you to think that you should just drink down the bottle and that's going to be good. Not a good idea. The body can only process so many essential oils at a given time. What is a good guideline to gradually reduce medication? Okay, so I know with my husband's medication, he is tested every 3 months. He goes back to his doctor and has his blood tested every 3 months. When the doctor sees that his numbers are improving, so for my husband, it's usually A1C. If the A1C numbers are improving, the doctor reduces the medication, and my husband's medication has reduced drastically since he first started taking medication. The other thing that I want to mention is the types of medications that are being produced are also changing. So you will begin to see perhaps that your doctor switches you from a more powerful medication to something that's a little bit more mild. That's also a very positive indicator. But in no circumstances should you stop taking the medication that was prescribed to you based on the recommendations that I've made today. So 1 to 4 drops in total, maybe 2 to 3 times a day. Yes, absolutely. So that should be your guideline for taking the medication. Anybody else have any questions that they want to ask me? So today, the person, actually, hold on for me for 1 second. 1 second. Okay, so today's winners will receive a Motivate roll-on, because I want you to stay motivated to make changes in your life. And sometimes diabetes can be one of those things where you say, oh, I can't do it anymore. It's sort of like trying to lose weight. If you've been a person who has been having difficulty losing weight your entire life, or has been heavy, it's one of those uphill battles that you're constantly working on, and diabetes can be the same sort of thing. But don't lose hope. You can do it. So Motivate roll-ons today will go at many ask will they become no. So I have not found that there are conflicts taking the medication and taking your medications and applying the oils. Certainly applying the oils, I've never had any problem. If you're taking the oils internally, you want to make sure you check with your doctor. But I have to say the 2 oils that have never had any conflicts are the coriander and the cilantro. The other 3, you want to make sure that you are checking with your doctor. The one oil that I hear all the time that's a conflict with medication, or the one thing, is grapefruit. And it's usually grapefruit juice, not grapefruit essential oil, but many doctors will not allow you to take grapefruits, which is why I did not mention it in this particular presentation. However, the SlimSassy capsules do have grapefruit essential oil in it, so you want to make sure that you're just double checking with your doctor if you are on medication for diabetes. Okay, so our 2 winners today are Thomas Mack and Marina. Thomas Mack and Marina, you are 2 winners today. I want to thank you. Thank you for being on the call. Congratulations to our winners. And I will be back again next week. Have a wonderful and blessed week for all of those who celebrated this past weekend. I am so very happy to be with you again on Easter Monday. This is a great day. And I'm looking forward to seeing you again next week. We'll be back again on this number, on our new number, and you can see our numbers are way up. We're getting over this 60 people on the call, which is terrific. We want to get our numbers as high up to as 100 as we possibly can. So please spread the word, and I will see you both again back here next week. Have a wonderful week, everyone. God bless you. Bye-bye now. Bye.